Hello and welcome back to Assetto Corsa and the Nordschleife challenge. Thank you very much for joining me in this video. Now, over the past two videos with the Nordschleife challenge, we have taken out two front wheel drive, fairly small cars, I suppose even smaller than a hot hatch, with the Fiat 500 Abarth and the Alfa Romeo Mito QV. Now those have set times of 9 minutes 3 seconds roughly and 9 minutes 2 seconds. In fact, 9 minutes 3 seconds all around. I'd say within a second of each other. Surprisingly, the Alfa Romeo was slower than I thought it would be, at least at the start. Once I started driving it, I realised that it is going to be slower than I thought it would be, but as requested, I'm going to be taking out a KTM X Bow, a car that I hardly drive, and I am pretty sure this is going to be a lot faster. First of all, it has a 2 litre turbocharged engine from an Audi, producing 300 odd brake horsepower. You're looking at about 295 pound-feet of torque, a top speed of well over 140 miles per hour, 6-speed manual gearbox, rear-wheel drive. This is going to be great, but more so, it has nice sticky tyres. I cannot get street tyres on this, semi-slicks only, so we are going to be running with semi-slicks, but it has 255s on the rear, 205s on the front, but it is a rear wheel drive, which means that we do have the extra grip. This is going to be interesting, and to top all of that off, this Austrian motorbike company, yes, KTM motorbike company, has built this car and it only weighs 790 kilos, or just under 1,750 pounds. As I have done with the other videos, I'm going to be doing some practice on Patreon, which will come straight after this, and then I will join you in the main video. So you guys, what you will see next if you're watching this video, I will join you once I've done a little bit of practice to ensure that I can get a fair amount out of this vehicle. So if you are going to watch this video and are interested in the practice, please do consider supporting me on Patreon, link in the description. And also, since at the start of the video these seem to make a little bit more of a difference, if you do enjoy the videos, please remember to like them, or hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything, but I would really appreciate the support. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here we are starting up the first lap with a bump. So one of the first things that I do need to mention is that I said that the top speed of this car was in excess of 140 miles per hour. I think it's in excess of 150 actually, now looking at it. I must have read the specs wrong or something like that. I thought the top speed was 144, it might be 154 or 155 for that matter. The car's an interesting car. I have been struggling to drive it on the practice laps I've done on Patreon, but I'm getting there. I'm sort of getting on with the car just a little bit. I think this car's actually done a lap of the Nordschleife before at about I think it was 7 minutes 25 or thereabouts. Also, for some reason my force feedback's gone a little bit light, so I say light as you start hearing some of that clanking, but I've just lost a lot of road feeling, which is a little bit odd, but that's okay. That is completely and utterly okay. I'm going to see what kind of lap time I can do. Obviously I have restarted, as some of you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed. I have done a full restart, but I do have a lap delta up, so after the first lap you should be able to see a delta to see where I'm going and what kind of lap time I have actually set. So that is by request of Leo, who left it in the comments box, saying that he wanted to be able to see things a little bit better when he's viewing it on a mobile phone. So of course I will try my best to accommodate. Hopefully that one should do a good job. Wow, that was not clean, that section. So things that I've noticed about this car, well, first of all, like the Alfa Romeo, this has 17-inch front wheels and 18-inch rears, so we have two different sizes of wheel. Unlike the Alfa Romeo, it makes sense for this car because this car is very much a track day vehicle. You can just tell that this is very much a track day vehicle. The rear wheels, or I should say the rear tyres, are 255 35 R18s, and the fronts are 205 40 R17s. So a lot narrower. You're talking about 2 inches narrower for the front wheels or front tyres than the rears, or 50mm, which is not bad overall. I mean, it is a rear-wheel drive vehicle, so you are going to expect it to need some pretty strong rear tyres. And as I mentioned in the intro, this does have semi-slicks on because the car does not, at least in Assetto Corsa, does not seem to have street tyres. This is the Crossbow R, so I'm not sure if the R just means semi-slicks only, but that is what we have available. I think something that I've noticed about this car and about driving this car is you have to really think ahead. You've got to plan what you are going to do and how you're going to do it, because once you take a line in a certain fashion, you need to figure out how you're going to improve on that line, or how that line is going to then affect what is about to happen next. And unlike other cars, this car does not give you the sort of grace or leeway. If you get it wrong and then you do not get the next section right, you're gone. So if you haven't planned that line ahead of you, you will be in a bit of a mess. The other thing is, this car does suffer from, I'm not sure why, but it does suffer very, very much from low, what's the right term for this? I suppose low speed understeer? Low speed oversteer, where the car just has a lazy turn. It just has a very lazy spin, and it is very, very easy to do that with this car. At high speeds, the car is fantastic. At mid speeds, you have just a smidge of understeer, but at high speeds, the car is absolutely fantastic. In fact, you can see that as I'm driving this car, and I am pushing this car quite a fair amount, but it is very nice to, I say nice to drive. I've never been a big fan of this car, but it is, once you're driving it and you're doing what you need to do, it's a good car, especially for a motorcycle manufacturer. The engine does everything you would expect of the engine. There, you see, now that is where I'm going to really have to try and build up some time. The engine does everything you expect of it, and as it should. It is an Audi engine, as I believe I mentioned. The 300 brake horsepower feels like more than 300 brake horsepower, but then horsepower is a relative term, isn't it? It's because I say it's a relative term, I mean in terms of how people tend to measure it in their heads. A lot of people think, well, the more horsepower, the faster the car, but that's not necessarily true. You could have a 500 horsepower car, but if it weighs 4 tons, not exactly going to be faster than this, is it? And that's something that really catches you out. 300 horsepower should not feel this quick. Should not be, I think I could take 4th gear there, should not feel this, what's the right term for it? I'm not going to say alive, violent, maybe? I suppose, yeah, violent. It just should not feel like this is 300 horsepower. This feels more like a car that would be maybe 400, 450, 500 horsepower, and the reason for that is because the car is so light. You're probably looking at about 400, just over 400 horsepower per ton, if my maths is correct, given the mass of this car. You're probably looking at about 400 horsepower per ton. That's just crazy, that is. 400 horsepower per ton is absolutely crazy. Now, coming up to the end of the first lap, but obviously that lap is not going to really count for the times, and the reason being is because of where I started and where the race lap starts. But that, I feel like, was a fairly good time, and now you can see my estimated delta, so that's up and running for you guys to now enjoy. So let's see if I can make something of this. 748 is what it's telling me. Now, I believe this car has done a 725 on the Nordschleife in real life. I'm not going to get that because I do not have enough experience with this vehicle. I must admit that I'm surprised I have not crashed it yet. Watch me say that now and almost immediately spin the car. I have had a few moments, but nothing that has led to the car, or nothing that's actually been completely out of control. So I am rather happy to report that. As I said, the car is... Oh, that's going to be a little bit wide. I felt that happen. That was dangerous. I had a split-second decision to make there. Do I keep my foot in it or not? And I think my brain just went, no, you're going to have to keep your foot in it for that one. No ABS or traction control on this vehicle. So everything has to be controlled by my left and right foot. Primarily my right foot, because my left foot's managing the clutch. And I tend not to, if I've got a car with a clutch, I tend not to use a second foot, not to use the left foot on the brake, just as a matter of, I do not want to make a mistake. So I tend not to use my left foot on the brake if a car has a manual operated clutch. That being said, I have tried it in my actual car before, and it is a strange feeling to be swapping from left to right foot for the brake and moving the left foot around for the brake and the clutch. This is an interesting feeling. It does work better in rally cars, I must admit. It's a much more natural thing to do in rally cars, I think, just because of the nature of rally cars, and you realise that is something you need to do. This is a corner where I really do not like. In the practice laps, I was very much struggling with this corner. In fact, there it is again. You can just see that struggle. It's very slow. Everything just happens very slowly. And it's at that low speeds where this car feels the absolute worst. I think once it's up to speed, the car feels fine. So where would this car really be, I think, at home? This car would certainly be at home on a faster track. So the faster the track, the more this car would feel at home, I think. Put us around somewhere like Silverstone, and I think it would be fine for most of the track, but around Village, the Loop, that is where it will struggle. Put us around Spa, I think it will struggle at the chicane and La Source. But outside of that, I think it would be absolutely fine everywhere else. I think it would absolutely love, apart from the chicane, I think it would love Sector 3. That is where I think it would certainly shine. Sector 2, end of Sector 2 going into Sector 3. But that's just my thoughts on it. I might be wrong. left it in 6th gear there because I was carrying a lot of speed, and I thought I can use 6th gear to help shed off the speed whilst planting my foot on the throttle and not having any trouble. Car wanted to spin once again there. It's just as you're turning, the car just wants to over rotate on you. This bit of lock up on the brakes. I think that was the front left that was locking up, skipping over the grass. Ooh. Again, now the car's getting a little bit more sort of skittish. And as you can see, as you go through the gears as well, one of the other things I've noticed, if you do not have the revs matched perfectly, this car gives you no quarter. It honestly does not give you a chance. Match the revs and you're great with this car. Do not match the revs when downshifting, and you will struggle. So heel and toe is pretty much a must with this vehicle. Like that. Do it the other way and you'll start feeling the back of the car just give in a little, want to slide out as it jumps up through the revs, and suddenly you know your rear wheels want to spin at a much faster rate. There's some additional torque going into it, stuff like that. You really want to be careful with this vehicle when it does that. Interesting carrying 5th through here, something different. I thought I'd try 5th. Little bit sluggish, I think 4th is probably a better one to keep going through that section, and then obviously you're already back up to 5th here. I think I'm going to try and hold 5th. 6th is not required. Bring it down to 4th nicely for that. Actually, I might need to try and hold 4th. Let's see what 4th does around here. 4th is a better gear around there. There you go. So 4th for that and 3rd for this. I think for me, somebody who's only done a couple of laps of this car, 3 laps, 4 laps, I think I've done pretty well to set a lap time like the one that I'm about to set. It's going to be around 7 minutes 46, I think. It says 7:42, but I think it is going to be a 7:46. Let's jump over onto some cleaner tarmac. It looks like this tarmac here is a smidge smoother. There we go. Hopefully everybody's enjoying this video. Again, if you are, please remember to hit the like button and to subscribe to the channel. And if you can, please do consider supporting me on Patreon, like Leo. Thank you, Leo, for your patronage, for quite a significant amount of patronage. You've been a patron of mine for a long time. I almost binned that, and I have messed up that lap, so I'm going to go for another, but I'm not sure if anybody noticed there how close I was to that wall. 7:44, 1:30 is what I just set. Let's see what I can do in one more lap. Just because as you start getting used to cars, you start feeling where you can push them a little bit further, and I'm starting to get a feel for tiny sections in where I can push this car a bit further. And also, let's be honest, I want to fix up the slight mistakes I made. I say slight mistakes, I probably made a number of mistakes, but the slight major mistakes that I made, I'd like to see if I can fix those. If not, what I will take is obviously the lap time that is given to me at the end, and I'll use that to... Ooh. Once again, that was a keep your foot in it moment. I think had I taken my foot off the accelerator at that point, I would have lost control of the car. And I do like bringing the car down to this corner. That is a corner I rather like to do. It looks like I'm going slower all throughout, unfortunately. Oh, as I say that, I set a purple sector. I don't know. And that was also interesting. I think that's the first time I have ever been. I think that's the first time I've ever been on the right-hand side, going up that hill so close that my tyres are actually on the curb, and you can hear the noise from the curb. That was a little bit better, I think. Also, the whole idea of slowing fast out always applies, always applies. That was a lot better. Now this is where I know I was not doing all too fantastically. There we go. Right, hold it in second this time. Ease it up into third. There we go. Look at that. 1.3 seconds. And that just shows how one corner can make a massive difference to this car's, to a lap time around the Nordschleife actually. I actually do not know as well if KTM still make the crossbow. I know they made a crossbow RR. This is the R, so I don't know. Is it the crossbow? Then you have the crossbow race, which is the R, and then RR is what? Really race? Maybe it's just race. Yes, I have the crossbow race. Carrying around the same speed through that corner, which is absolutely fine for me. I'm quite happy to carry that speed around that corner. And then again, the car just washed out wide there. Now that was probably almost entirely my fault. I was going far too fast into the corner. It looks like that was two wheels that had locked up. The left front certainly, but I think they look like the right front locked up a slight amount on the last lap. On this lap it hasn't. On this lap it was certainly only the left front. I could hear it skipping. But interestingly enough, I did not feel the right front locking as such. It seemed okay. Again, you see I'm really making sure that I'm blipping that throttle, and in doing so I'm giving myself the maximum opportunity to ensure that I'm not going to lose control of the car because of the extra torque or anything like that. And that is, I think, extremely important. If you're driving this car, make sure that you blip the throttle every single time you downshift. That is, I cannot stress that enough. This is not a car where you can get away with not doing that. And be easy as you come out of the corners with the car. Do not, I know you might think, well, it's going to be good just to put your foot down out of the corners because it's on semi-slicks. I've learnt not a good idea. Just because it's on semi-slicks does not mean that it's able to handle that all the time. The semi-slicks give it a lot of grip, but perhaps not as much as you may think. Run it right out to the rev limiter there, back down to fourth, and I'm holding it. Got to remember to try and hold fourth through this. Oh, that was slow. but that was slow because I cut in, I think, a little too early, and then it compromised my exit. Again, holding fourth through here. A little bit slow, but that's okay. The idea here is to make it to the end of the lap. There we go. .7 seconds faster. This is not terrible. This is not too terrible. I would like to have done that under 740, but you know, that's okay. That is completely okay. And what I will do is I'll bring it up on a timesheet with our times now. There we go. Much cleaner, much more sensible. There you go, 740. 740.73. I thought I'd just take it right over to the edge. 740.73 is the time, so that will be coming up on the timesheet right now in front of you. So I think that was quite enjoyable with this car. In a sense, it's not I'll be honest, it's not a car I would buy. Maybe a car I'd take out on the track. Do not think it's a car I would actually purchase as an everyday car. The rear end is way too unstable, and it's not that predictable. Unlike other rear-wheel drive cars, this is not quite as predictable as I would like. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, please remember to hit the like button, as I've now said for the third time. Sorry. Subscribe to the channel. Again, said it for the third time. It is free. That's the second time I've said that. But if you do want to support me, you can do so by going to Patreon. www.patreon.com/ECGadget. Your support would be massively appreciated. It would really help me out. And also, you can find me on social media at ECGadgetLP for both Twitter and Instagram. That is all from me, and I will see you next time in Assetto Corsa for another video on the Nordschleife challenge. Let me know what cars you would like to see next.